Hey everyone, it's Alexander the Real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel. This is my review for Elvis, more specifically Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, which stars Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. The movie is essentially a biopic about the infamous, the one and only Elvis Presley. It details his early childhood just briefly, but most of the movie is sort of his work relationship with Colonel Tom Parker. The Colonel was pretty much Elvis's manager, and he was the one that made all the decisions for Elvis, like, this is where you're gonna play, this is what you're gonna do, this is how I'm gonna market you, I'm gonna make you a big star, in exchange you're gonna make money for me, lots of money. But on the other side of the coin, you have Elvis Presley, who is definitely more rebellious and goes against the standards set by society at the time. There are two figures attached to this movie that certainly have a mixed reception when it comes to people. The first is obviously Elvis Presley. He is one of the most important icons in our society. His music is famous. His overall look and impact is just iconic all around. But he's also a bit controversial considering that he pretty much stole from black musicians. Now, the movie actually does address the fact that Elvis was influenced by this music. And honestly, I don't know much about the real life Elvis to accuse him of stealing music. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it considering that, he's white. I just don't know much about the real life person to actually say something, because when it comes to musicians in the 60s, especially with rock and roll, I'm more of a Beatles guy. But then the other figure you have in this movie is the director, Baz Luhrmann, who is definitely hit or miss for a lot of people. Me, myself, I'm not a big fan of his work, and it's not that he's a bad director. He definitely has his own style. You can watch one of his movies and instantly recognize that, oh, this is a Baz Luhrmann movie, no question about it. But I just don't like most of his movies. I didn't like his adaptation of The Great Gatsby, I hated Australia, and I'm not a big fan of Moulin Rouge. I know that's a beloved film, like that might be his most popular one, but it just doesn't work for me. I know I'm a fan of a lot of directors that are definitely grand in terms of their style, like Sam Raimi. But Baz Luhrmann just does things throughout his movies that don't really fit. So I had no real expectations going into this because I didn't know much about Elvis's life beyond his music, and I wasn't a big fan of the director. And also there's the fact that this movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes long. But I gotta say, after seeing this, I surprisingly liked it. I felt like Baz Luhrmann, in terms of his direction, was a little more pulled back. He didn't go completely overboard with his style the way he did in Great Gatsby. And maybe the runtime definitely had something to do with it. And speaking of that runtime, I'll just cut right to the chase right now. I actually didn't feel it. I know I've complained quite recently about a lot of movies that run for a little too long, but it all has to deal with, do I feel bored? In this movie, I was never bored in it. It was always interesting. And again, it didn't feel like it was 2 hours and 40 minutes. So at the end of the day, the two things that I was not looking forward to with this movie actually surprised me. But the real reason you see this movie is because of Austin Butler as Elvis Presley. This is an Oscar-worthy performance right here. He transforms into Elvis the second you see him on screen. I didn't see a performance watching this. I saw Elvis Presley on that screen. He's got the mannerisms down. He's got the little movements that he does when on stage. The voice is just perfect. It's kind of like, I hate to bring this movie up, but it's like when you watch The Identical and when you have that lead actor in the movie act like Elvis. He's really good, except that actor was only good whenever he was impersonating Elvis. Throughout the rest of that movie, he's terrible. Not the case with Austin Butler. He is fantastic from beginning to end, mainly because he actually is playing Elvis. But I wonder if this movie's gonna stick around long enough for the Academy to remember this. I mean, the movie's getting phenomenal reviews, and everyone's praising his performance, so I hope it does, but this is also one of those Oscar-type movies that makes me wonder, why is this coming out in the summer? If they want this movie to get Oscar love, then releasing it in October or November is going to be the best thing that could happen to it, not June. So we'll see. Time will tell whether or not this movie actually does get some Oscar buzz, but even if it doesn't get like Best Picture, Production Design, Cinematography, or whatnot, it would be a crime if Austin Butler did not get nominated for Best Actor. I know it's too early to say, but I hope that happens. Tom Hanks as the Colonel is good, but he's a little too over the top, and the voice he does is just too much. I've seen actual footage of the real Tom Parker, and what Tom Hanks is doing is nothing how the real life figure sounds like. But again, as I said before, it's Baz Luhrmann, so I just kind of went with it. He wasn't bad, and it wasn't distracting enough to take me out of the movie, but it just was a really weird decision. The movie is very well paced, well edited, and I don't think there's any part of the movie when it comes to telling Elvis's story that feels like it didn't have a reason to be there. Every single moment in this movie feels important to telling the story. The production design and costumes are all top-notch with this movie and do a great job at showcasing each decade, which I find interesting that with this movie, the 60s is painted as a true transitional decade. Like the first half still feels like the 50s, and then we go into the second half of the 60s and it feels like it's a real transition into the 70s. So it was really cool to see. And there's a lot of really over-the-top theatrical camera work. The cinematography is a little nuts. There's a lot of really fake CG in this movie, especially when it comes to showing the International Hotel where Elvis played during the 70s. That was one of the biggest parts of the movie that I really didn't like, just the overuse of terrible CGI. And another thing I didn't like about the movie is the very weird use of rap music. I've heard people defend Baz Luhrmann's use of rap music, saying, oh, that's his style and he's been doing it for a long time. And I get that. Every filmmaker has that one little thing that they do so you know that it's their movie. Like J.J. Abrams with lens flares, Michael Bay with explosions, with those white sparks coming out all over the place. Who else? Zack Snyder with slow motion. So I get that every director has that, but those are honestly aspects that after a while you just kind of have to stop. I'm sure when Baz Luhrmann first did this, it was cute, but after a while it just has no purpose in the movie. Like, why is there rap music? I get that this movie is painting Elvis as being influenced by black musicians, but it's between two different genres separated by decades, so it just doesn't make any sense for me. That being said though, unlike The Great Gatsby, I actually like this movie quite a bit. I can't say whether or not this movie will end up in my top 10 list, but you know, considering how great 2022 has been in terms of movies, despite the best efforts of this turd right here, I might have to expand my best of list once again. So we'll see what happens. For right now, I'm going to say that Elvis is worth seeing in your lifetime. If you're a Baz Luhrmann fan, then you're already going to see this movie because you automatically love his style, and even though I like the movie, no amount of criticism that I give towards his style is going to stop you. If you're not a Baz Luhrmann fan, however, I still recommend that you watch it, but I'm going to leave it up to you on whether you want to see it in theaters or HBO Max, because there are a lot of elements in this movie that I think are worth seeing in a theater, but at the same time, there's just so much in it, like the terrible CGI cityscapes that make me go, this is better on HBO Max, I think. So you can make up your own mind. For me personally, I like this movie quite a bit. And there you go, that's my review for Elvis. I hope you enjoyed it. And now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one. Hello everyone, I just wanted to say thank you all for watching my review for Elvis. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go check out my Twitch channel, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.